We're back for 2018 and today we're going to do an exciting mechanical keyboard build and is another highly recommended DIY kit. In 2017, KBD fans really pushed hard and have taken the custom keyboard scene by storm with a load of new products, however this is one of the older ones. Recently I did a video on the TDA68, which is one of the most popular go-to mechanical keyboard kits on the market, but that one was a 65% keyboard. This time round we have the KBD75, which is often recommended when people ask for something like a custom 10 keyless keyboard, even though it is a 75% keyboard. Alright, so here's most of the parts for today's build. I got mine with a bunch of other keyboards, so there may have been a keycap puller, and I think there was some like extra diodes and underglow LEDs. Here's the metal case and it comes pre-assembled to keep the parts from moving around. And this is a good time to stick on the feet to protect the bottom during the build. The standoff screws are already in place, and on the inside we can see that there is still some protective layer over the acrylic, so I'm going to take the case apart to get rid of that. The case is held together simply by a couple of Phillips head screws. I'm not entirely sure if you should take the protective layer off, but it makes sense to, and you really have to be careful here because the acrylic is very snappable. This is 2mm thick acrylic and is completely clear, and this is for that bit of underglow lighting, but yeah, it's not frosted or anything, which is the more usual thing to do for that diffused look. And here's the aluminium pieces. These are CNC milled and are done beautifully as to be expected, and since they are solid pieces of aluminium, they have no flex at all, at least by hand, but as we can see they aren't the bulkiest of pieces, so they aren't overly heavy. Right, now to the PCB. This is a 75% PCB and is made for MX style key switches, which include Cherry MX, Gateron, Kale and all the other clones. We have the SMD diodes and resistors already soldered on, so all that's required is that you solder in your key switches and 2 pin through hole LEDs if you want. We also have 16 RGB LEDs for the underglow lighting, with one line at the top and one at the bottom on the underside of the PCB. Although this PCB has quite the curve to it. I really don't know how bad of a thing this is, but everything works, and I mean it will be straightened when it's built, and funnily enough the aluminium mounting plate, which has this brushed silver finish to it, is also curved but in the opposite direction. So they kind of counteract each other, but yeah, still these pieces should be straight. Right, so first you should test your PCB and then we can get on with the build. The first step is to put in the stabilisers. These stabilisers don't come pre-assembled, but they're very easy to put together, and this is a perfect time to lube your stabilisers. Dielectric grease and super lube are often recommended. The KBD75 supports a couple of different layouts. One example is this, which includes a 7-unit spacebar and 1.5 unit alt and control keys. And yes, we do get a 7-unit stabilizer included with the kit. However, I'm going for a more standard 6.25 unit spacebar, which all keycap sets will accommodate, and then a bunch of 1-unit keys to the right of that. Because there are several positions keys can go, make sure you get them in the correct spots before soldering by putting some keycaps on and putting them in place. Alright, so now to the soldering. I'm going to be using Gateron yellow key switches, which are medium weight linear smooth switches. Now remember that our plate and PCB are bent in the opposite directions, so we have to press these pieces together when soldering. In this case, I just pushed the two pieces together by hand and soldered like so, but that requires me to reflow the joint, or you can just use some small clamps. And soldering is a piece of cake as per usual, and you shouldn't be scared of it. You basically just want a shiny concave cone joint. I won't be going through soldering over and over again, but my friend Juju has a great video specifically on soldering mechanical keyboards, which I'll link in the description, so definitely check that out to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Okay, so at this point, hopefully no mistakes were made with your layout and stuff. But classic me, I did mess up, which you may have picked up on earlier, and it's one of the worst mistakes because it's a stabilizer. I put the right shift stabilizer in, meaning that there is no room for an up arrow key, and I was just going through the motions and was completely oblivious. I put the keyboard together just to test it out, and these stabilizers are pretty bad, like legitimately some of the worst stabilizers I've come across. They're super rattly and for some reason just really scratchy. Even though I didn't lube them, I don't think lube can save these stabilizers. And with this sort of mistake, to replace the stabilizers, I have to desolder every single key switch, which is the absolute worst thing ever. If these stabilizers were decent, I would just rip out that one stabilizer, but I figured for this sort of keyboard I should put in some better ones. To replace them, I have these much better GMK screw-in stabilizers. One issue with some cheap stabilizers is that they can get pulled out accidentally when you take off your keycaps. So rather than having a one-way clip, we have a hole and we screw it in from the other side of the PCB, and I also did clip and lube them up. Alright, so once again I soldered in all the key switches, but I put in some Zelios for the arrow keys and a Kale box white for the escape key. I also put in the white LEDs, and as we can see, we now have two switches where the shift key would be. When you're dealing with irregular compact form factors, you usually have irregular keycap sizes, that is compared to a standard ANSI layout. And I went with this DSA key set from KBD fans. The DSA profile is a uniform profile which makes things easier as any key can go on any row, and this has 145 keycaps including everything you need and will cover a majority of keyboards. I don't know how this was laid out before, but I'm pretty sure I have all the keycaps in there, but they just might be out of order. So we have several size spacebars, a whole bunch of different size modifiers, these enter keys, and all the other ISO stuff you may need. And yeah, all you see here. These are made from PBT plastic and are laser etched, which is probably why they're a bit cheaper, and it comes in a couple of different colorways, but I went with this super clean and sleek grey and white, which I feel complements the uniformity of the keycaps themselves. They are approximately 1.4mm thick, so a decent thickness, and they have a roughish texture all the way around the keycap, rather than smooth on the sides like signature plastic DSA keycaps. So besides that they are laser etched, these are thicker and don't scratch up like the SP DSA keycaps do. So yeah, I think these are absolutely great value for what you get, especially when you're looking for full compatibility on the cheap. And now to screw it all back together. On the base we have this sheet thing going between the PCB and the aluminium, and it's pretty thick and seems like a bit of polypropylene or something, rather than paper or cardboard. One thing that I didn't do was put the acrylic piece in before screwing the PCB. So yeah, I just had to be careful when stretching it to fit. And here it is, and in my opinion it's absolutely stunning. The KBD75 is available in a couple of case colors, but I feel that silver really accentuates that metal look beautifully. It's a very simple enclosure, being just a rectangular from the top view with somewhat small bezels, but they still hold a presence. The edges are slightly rounded to give it that softness, and looking at the side profile we have the acrylic piece which lets that underglow lighting shine through. And yeah, it's completely clear and isn't frosted, so it's not really diffused as nicely. Plus we also do see the screw threads, which I would prefer not to see, especially that one in the middle, but these are little things that many will be fine with. And to close it off we have the bottom aluminium piece which angles the keyboard slightly, and it's also a very clean angular design that gives the case some sharpness and edge. As usual, there are no flip up feet for these types of boards, so we just have these feet here, but again the bottom is just solid and clean. And finally for the case we do have the mini USB port on the rear. I'm super glad that I grabbed these keycaps for this build. I think the grey and white colorway pairs up with the silver case so well, and the uniformity of the DSA profile matches the sleekness of the keyboard. The typeface or font also goes with the theme. The white backlighting serves as an underglow for the keycaps, as these are of course not shine-through keycaps. I'm always a fan of white backlighting because of its neutrality and its ability to pair with any setup, but yeah, again, there really is no other LED color choice for this build. The LEDs get pretty bright and start to penetrate through the keycaps, so I like to keep it pretty low. And then the underglow. These are RGB LEDs, so we have a bunch of different colors, effects and modes, which is always fun. The keyboard itself is a 75% as the name suggests, and this one in particular has 84 keys. That means it only has 3 keys less than a standard 87 key 10 keyless keyboard. So in terms of primary functionality, it essentially is a 10 keyless keyboard, but just more compact by about 2 columns laterally. And that's why it's a solid recommendation for a custom mechanical keyboard build for people just coming into it, since it doesn't stray too far from a normal keyboard and isn't as crazy expensive as some 10 keyless custom kits. The keyboard is customizable via the QMK firmware, so you can chop and change things with the keys and the layout as you wish, and that goes for the lighting as well. By default, the keycaps that are on here are representative of what the keys are. Therefore, we're missing the primary insert and delete keys, and also the second Windows or menu key to the right of the spacebar. So it's a very easy keyboard to adapt to. I put Gateron yellow key switches in, which are medium weight linear switches with no bump or click. I have 65 gram Zelios for the arrow keys and a lonely Kale box white escape key. And here's how it sounds. It's a pretty loud keyboard relative for linear keyboards, and this is a combination of the keycaps and the case. The full aluminium construction brings out a sharper sound in my opinion, which can come off as a bit louder than usual, and the keys also have a bit of a sharper press to them. I'm also very happy that I got rid of those rubbish stabilizers that the kit came with. These GMK screw-in stabilizers are much nicer. I don't know if they will change the stabilizers for other rounds or if they already have, but I definitely recommend not using them if they're the same as mine. Overall, I'm super pleased with how this turned out. While this is not cheap by any means, it's still towards the cheaper side in terms of metal custom builds, and it's constantly available, which is a plus rather than waiting on group buys or something. I feel the minimal silver case, white and grey DSA keycaps, white backlighting paired with the underglow all come together to create a very cohesive looking build. So if you're looking for a readily available custom build that is pretty much a 10 killers keyboard, then this might be the one for you. If it's a bit too much, then you have the Tada 68 to fall back on, which has a very similar but shorter 65% form factor.